Hey, what's up there, Internet? Troy to the Max Extreme here.
And Ghost Hunter Dave.
And together we are Imperius Rex. We are continuing our event fatigue event. And if you would like to listen to us on a downloadable podcasting platform, we have a plethora of them to choose from. Find any of your favorite podcast apps and do it. Or you can just find the link in the description of this YouTube video.
That's right. You're more than welcome to take us on a run with you. Or, you know, while you're doing laundry, around the house.
That's right.
To a parade, to a protest. Whatever is going on that you feel you should be doing, do it and bring us along.
Perfectly said, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, we are detouring a bit today to not to do a large event, but we're gonna just see what's happening in the Avengers a little bit before we jump right back into our big tentpole summer event.
That's right. Last we checked in, they were disbanded, disassembled, if you will. And you know what? 6 months later, they've gone and reassembled into a brand new Avengers.
Called the New Avengers.
That's right. It's almost like Bendis had this whole plan.
God damn. He is just a brainchild. He's like the egghead.
Puppet master.
So this took the world by storm, I would say. The comic world by storm. Because this Avengers roster...
Took me by storm. Knocked me off my rocker.
Oof. Knocked you off that creaky chair. Now you gotta walk around.
That's right. A little behind the scenes. I've got a creaky chair in my office that I normally record on. And, I'm holding the mic and I'm pacing around the office as I do. I'm gonna just see how that goes.
See if you get all the jitters out, you know?
That's right. That's right. I warned Troy, if I'm creaking too much, you tell me. You give me one warning, and then I'm gonna get one more warning, and if I'm still creaking, then I'm gonna switch chairs. And then I thought, you know what? We're living in the 21st century. It's a new day and age.
That's right.
You've heard of standing desks. Well, let's get rid of that desk altogether, and let's walk around with the microphone still plugged into the computer, so I've got a short leash. But that's where we're at right now.
I love this.
9 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah, new age thinking.
Yep. It's time for change.
This Avengers team took the world by storm. It's Avengers that no one ever thought would be a group together. I tell you what.
That's right.
And they all came together in a very convenient way in a volume 1 of Avengers called Breakout.
Ooh, man. I am a big fan of this arc. I'll tell you what. This got me back into reading, I would say, the mainstream Marvel Universe.
Oh, yeah. Same here. I was really taken by the art when it first started. I really dug Bendis's dialogue, and I just liked the random assortment of people that was in it. I thought that was the most interesting part. It's like,
same here.
Who they couldn't possibly add Spider-Man, but maybe not. But they have but not Wolverine. Oh my God, all of them.
And Luke Cage.
And Luke Cage. Everybody. And they even had he sprinkled in a little bit of a mystery box with adding the Sentry in this arc as well.
As well as Ronin, who doesn't make an appearance except on the covers of many of these.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Even though he doesn't pop up for 3 more arcs. But he was on the covers because, spoiler, that doesn't actually happen. I think it was initially planned for him to be Daredevil, I heard. Because he is one of the characters that is brought together through happenstance in the formation of the team, but then declines membership when Cap officially asks him to join the New Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bendis was kind of plotting out that maybe Daredevil would join secretly, but then whatever was going on in the Daredevil book, I think it just didn't quite line up, so he scrapped that, and we got a different character behind the Ronin mask, who, as we've said, doesn't even really appear until much later in the book, so it's hardly worth even wasting airtime on.
I know. I am looking at the alternate covers in the back, and I love that David Finch's like cover to #1 has like a character that never appears.
Yeah, yeah. Is that him on it?
I think it's supposed to be the Sentry, or I'm sorry, Ronin, but it's he's got like, I don't know, he looks like Klaus from freaking Hellboy or BPRD. He's got that glass head or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Looks completely bizarre, and I love that it's there forever and it never happened.
Yeah, oh yeah, shit. You are completely right. I was looking at a different one and now I found it. That is so weird. Yeah, who is that?
I have no idea.
It totally looks like Johan.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, it truly was a hodgepodge of characters. It was like Bendis got out all of his Marvel action figures and just tossed them up in the air, closed his eyes, and picked a handful, and he said, this is going to be the new Avengers team.
Mm-hmm.
And then he picked another handful and said, and these are going to be the main villains.
And he just picked all of them.
Yeah. But like the villains, the ones that he calls out here, well, let's set this up a bit here before we get really into it. So this is 6 months after Avengers disassembled, and also Secret War happened sometime in there. And also Young Avengers happened sometime in there too, which I'm going to briefly touch on because I reread that. I hadn't read it in a long time and thought, why not? But we won't spend a whole lot of time on that. But anyway, 6 months after the Avengers were disassembled, Electro, of all people, is contracted, because he's an electrician, to shut down the raft and break out a mysterious villain. And while doing so, all the lowlives and criminals that are incarcerated are running amok. So a random assortment of heroes come to the aid and fight them off. And then from there on, a new Avengers team is formed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that sum it up pretty well for at least the first couple issues?
Yeah, I think it works really well. I really love the first few pages of this where like an unknown figure is talking to Max Dillon, and he asks him, costume or no costume? Well, that's completely up to you. And he's like, costume.
Yep, puts on the dorky lightning bolt mask, which I feel like you're not even sure who it is until he puts on the lightning bolt mask too, which I thought was kind of a good reveal there. Mm-hmm. You're like, who is this guy? Who's this heavy hitter? And it's like, Electro? Really?
Of all people?
But it makes sense. I mean, he's got the powers to do that. He just needed to be kind of pointed in the right direction there.
That's right. I mean, you see the large explosion coming out of the raft there in this double-page spread. It's got quite the punch. Maybe he was pent up.
I think so. A lot of male aggression. Speaking of double-page spreads, this book is full of them.
Yep.
And I think we criticized, or maybe I criticized, David Finch's artwork when we were talking about Disassembled prior to this. And I think he's improved just over that much time. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be like too critical. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, well, he's not as good as how I draw stuff. But we pointed out a couple things where like sometimes his people are very similar looking, and like his characters virtually have no noses. But all things said, he's a very talented artist. He has kind of a grittier Jim Lee feel, I kind of think.
Yeah, I actually went and looked because you asked last time we were talking where he got started, and it was Wildstorm. So,
was it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Over in that, or a Wildstorm and like Top Cow over in that Image split over that way.
Do you know what book he did? By
no,
chance?
No, I don't remember that. That was weeks ago.
Fair enough. All right. I feel like this premise would be perfect for a formation of a new Avengers team in the cinematic universe. You know, since we essentially just kind of disbanded the main Marvel Cinematic Avengers. Mm-hmm. This would be kind of a cool way to bring in a bunch of new characters.
Yeah.
And just take a whole new look at the Avengers, because like the premise is so spur of the moment and random that it just works. Like anyone can be in this. because it's just like, yeah, there's a big disaster and all these villains are out. You literally pull in anyone you want to be in this.
Yeah, for sure. They already have, like, the Raft in the cinematic universe, so why not just have villains that broke out of it?
Right. And there's so many random Marvel villains, like you have the Abomination somewhere, like all these kind of unanswered questions that you could just totally pull in for a cameo like this.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit more weight than just a bunch of random thugs in like jumpsuits.
For sure. Speaking of random thugs, like the double page spread and where Electro is like talking to a virtual who's who of villains, and when I mean who's who, I'm like, well, who's that?
Who are these people? Yeah. Absolutely. I love this this collection that I have, and I think most do, come with a kind of like a case files or like a literal who's who of who has escaped on the raft. And they are the most random characters. Like, were these the only ones that Bendis got the authorization to use? Because there's a couple people in there that I'm like, oh, cool, Jigsaw.
Yep.
Or Hydro Man, or a few others. And then there's someone called Mandrill, who's literally a baboon. Like, what is this? And then there's also Griffin, who's also kind of a baboon, except he has wings. Grey Gargoyle, who I always appreciate. Fool Killer. Dr. Demonicus. I mean, what era did these guys come out of?
Who knows? But then, like, later on, they're obviously they all meet with our heroes anyway, and they're fighting, and then Daredevil's like, oh god, not you again, and it's like just somebody like Dr. Demonicus. It's like, was that in the Bendis run where he used these guys?
Right. Was it Mr. Hyde? Was that who he fought?
Oh yeah, it might have been Mr. Hyde. Yeah.
Okay, but again, like who?
Yeah.
Like, from the novel?
Yeah.
How tied in is this continuity? Did I say the Purple Man? Purple Man was, I think, pretty popular in Bendis's run on Alias, I think.
Yeah, I want to know like how much of Alias he had already written and had come out before he started this.
Oh, was he writing them concurrently?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I have them, and I've actually never read them. I've always meant to, but
yeah, same.
I hear they're good. But I mean, they make mention to like Jessica Jones is pregnant, and her and Luke Cage are together, and I know that they're together.
I hear they have anal sex in it.
Yeah, that's like the very first few
claim
pages.
to fame of the Alias 4-arc series, I believe. The only thing anyone talks about.
That literally happens in the first, like, 4 pages.
Well, I know how far I need to read tonight.
But yeah, soon the heroes that are already split up, we have Jessica Drew and the team of Nelson and Murdoch down with Luke Cage. And they're there for
Flocky
something.
Just looks like an abysmal toad.
Yeah. Oh my god, does he?
What is this guy? He is just a premium wuss.
And a complete troll. Just like,
yes.
What is happening here? I love that he's just such a dickhead, or just like a little doof. But at the same time, they're like downstairs with Jessica Drew and Luke Cage, and Carnage breaks out. I think this is like our favorite parts, right?
It absolutely is. This is my favorite part of probably the entire New Avengers series.
And they just
because
they shove Nelson right in that locker where the Sentry is, because the Carnage is carnaging outside.
Yep.
And he's just like, Sentry, sir, please save me.
He's such a little worm.
But then he does.
And Sentry just looking total bad A.
He never looked better than in this first appearance, I think. I love the long hair and bearded look.
I do too. I like the long hair and beard, or the short hair and no beard. Mm-hmm. But they did the complete opposite of that, like ongoing, and just gave him like the Thor look, where he just has long flowing hair.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. You need that beard.
Yeah, I know why. I know why they gave him like the longer hair to differentiate him from like Hawkeye and Captain America and all that stuff when they're like unmasked, because then they'd all kind of look the same. But at the same time,
But, like, how often are they unmasked?
I don't know, Dave.
And, like, give him the beard. That's way more differentiating than any of that.
Yeah, nobody has a beard.
Mm-mm. And it looks so great. I mean, I guess he was all disheveled and gloomy, so, like, once he snapped out of it, he shaved, but it was such a cool look.
Yeah.
In that, like, tattered costume.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I remember when the Sentry obviously was huge here, but he had his own, like, action figure, and you could get him with the beard and tattered costume, or you could get him with the clean-cut look.
Yep,
and I
had them both.
I was so upset that I could never find the tattered look. That's the only one I ever wanted.
I know. I sold them somewhere. It's the worst decision of my life. If anyone finds those toys, you send them to us.
I know. We're pretty big stands for the Sentry. I like him a lot.
Yeah, we need to maybe do a show on like that mini series.
I'd be okay with that.
Reading the second arc of this, more to come on that. They definitely reference back to that, and it made me really want to go and reread it.
Mm-hmm.
The Paul Jenkins 6-issue mini, and I've never read the follow-up to it, so it might be worth looking into.
Oh,
and then Jeff Lemire just did a Sentry miniseries as well, so he's kind of back, I think.
Well, he hasn't been.
I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens in Event Fatigue. See if we get to it, or if we're just too burned out by that point.
But moving on, he.
Well, yeah. What does Sentry do? How does he make his claim to fame?
Oh my God! So he bursts onto the scene by busting down that door, grabs Carnage right by his hiney, and flies him into space and tears his ass in half.
Oh my God, it's so great.
It is.
I feel like that was totally Bendis just releasing his frustration on like the 90s Marvel characters of like, you know what, I've always hated Carnage. Here's what I'm gonna do. Like, I don't think he even gets a line in. He just flies him to space and rips him in half. And that becomes like almost an ongoing joke on Sentry's powers, where they're like, can't you just like throw him into space or like throw him into the sun? It's like, that's not all I do, guys. But Carnage was out of the picture for quite a bit after this too, I think.
Yeah.
And eventually they like kind of brought him back, and he had cybernetic legs or something stupid like that. But I really like the idea of like, nope, Carnage is dead. Sentry just tore him up in space, and that's that.
Yeah. I want to know how he came back then, because I mean, was Cletus Cassidy inside, or was he just the goo?
No, it was Cassidy.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, goo powers.
Goo powers, I get it. If anyone know how he came back, hit us up in the comments, because I would love to know. Because I have no idea, and I will forget immediately after hitting stop on this to look it up.
And we will not be reading these. Please summarize it thoroughly, because I don't want to read a Carnage comic. I would just like to know what happened.
Please.
Yep.
But anyway, with all that ruckus going on downstairs, there's plenty going on up on the deck of the raft.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man has found his way there with the aid
It's brutalized.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's getting straight murdered.
He does. I thought, like, oh my God, is he trying to take down Spider-Man now? Bendis didn't get enough blood when he dismantled the Avengers. Now he's gunning for Peter. Little did we know he would do that in the Ultimate Universe years later.
Yeah.
But Jigsaw just snaps Spider-Man's arm in half. I had no idea Jigsaw had any sort of, like, super strength.
Neither did I. But maybe he's pent up.
It could be. It's a reoccurring theme with all these inmates.
But
they just needed some donuts, as we find out.
Yeah, when all the villains were like almost swallowing up Spider-Man, it was like getting me claustrophobic a bit.
Yeah,
and
yeah, he tries to like shoot a web and swing out, and they just continually beat him down, and he's basically being swarmed.
Yeah, and everyone is like, let me at him, it's my turn. It's like Christmas.
Spider-Man made a lot of enemies.
And then this is actually the first time I ever read anything about the Purple Man, too. I had
Same here.
No idea who he was, and then Luke Cage had obviously this back history with him. And even if you watch like Jessica Jones season 1 on Netflix, I think they did the Purple Man pretty well in that, I guess, from what I've seen in the books. But
yeah, yep.
When he tried to do...
He was like, unfortunately, he was one of my favorite parts of Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
But a lot of that came because David Tennant's just so charming.
For sure.
But, yeah, he was a fun, horrible rapist type of character.
Yes.
Which I hate to say that out loud, but he was he was entertaining, I guess, in all of his horrific antics.
For sure. But when he tried to mind control Luke Cage as he's eating that apple like a smarmy dick.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you kill your friends and then kill yourself? And then he just turns around, he's like, you're drugged. Fuck you. And just like almost beats him to death.
Yep.
Like,
punches
damn.
that apple right down his throat.
Golly.
Right down his purple throat. Yeah, so eventually the heroes quell the riot. There's something like 56 or 54 villains that manage to escape.
42, actually.
42?
Yes.
Well, you know, it might have been 56. I'm sure some of them maybe didn't make it to shore. The river was angry that day.
Well, when I was reading this, so 42 villains escaped. Does Bendis have a thing about the number 42? Because isn't, like, later on...
So Ultimate Spider-Man, the spider is 42. Test subject 42.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And
it's the lottery that Miles wins to get into the school.
Oh, that's okay. And then I think later on, isn't there like a Dimension 42 where they lock up villains later on?
Yeah, I believe there is. Interesting. Wonder what that fixation is. When we solve the mystery of who was the secret agent that told Bendis the Secret War bedtime story, we'll turn our attention onto the number 42. Maybe it's like Stephen King and the number 19. It's just like a random number that he has decided to sprinkle in everything he writes.
Oh, very, very true. Probably so.
Could be. Both wordy. That's it. But they get everything under control. They're having a cup of coffee on the raft, or not on the raft, on the SHIELD helicarrier, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Captain America and Iron Man are just kind of shooting the breeze and being like, wow, that was something, huh? Maybe the world does need the Avengers. And Captain America is kind of who's against it? Iron Man's kind of against it.
Yeah.
But Captain America kind of talks him into it. He's like, it was just like, remember, just like that first time, just a couple of years ago when the Avengers first formed. It's like the DC Batman continuity where everything that's ever happened exists in a 5-year window. But, like, yeah, remember in World War II, a couple of years back when the Avengers formed? But anyway, they're like, yeah, it was all of us kind of brought together serendipitously, and, you never could have picked this lineup, but we did it, so I think we need to recruit all these guys and reform the Avengers.
Yep.
And it takes some arm twisting, but eventually Stark agrees with it, but ultimately doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to fund them.
Yeah.
He's like, Cap, I am not liquid right now. Remember when I got drunk at the UN and almost killed the Latvian ambassador? Still trying to save face on that one.
Yeah, that Ratfink comment really got me in deep water.
Ratfink. But then he ultimately agrees, and Captain America rounds everybody up, minus Daredevil, and the new Avengers are formed, and they decide, let's go track down Electro, find out who's behind all this.
That's right. I really like the Jessica Drew Spider-Woman going down into the cell block with a thing of donuts, and everyone's just like, it was him, give me the donuts.
Yeah, I know. Say, like, you guys are going to be in here forever. There's no bright light on the horizon, so the best I can offer you is this donut right here if you sell out whoever did this. And they immediately do it.
Yeah. Carl Lycos, it was Carl. I know it was Carl.
Give me the glazed.
I also like, too, just like right before this, now they're taking residence in Stark Tower for the very first time. And
that's their new HQ.
The everyone together, and you have the spider people, and everyone's questioning, like, so you two know each other, or it's like,
yeah,
no, she got her name from me. I let her borrow it, and then she gave it out to like 100 other chicks.
Yep.
I
also like Spider-Man's really good in this, but I like at one point too, he's talking about his costume, and he's like, my tights and my booties. And Luke Cage is like, Booties? He's like, yeah, what do you call them? He's like, boots. Peter is all over the place in this. Like, sometimes he's really insensitive and misogynistic. Like, when they run across the second Black Widow, and he says something like, oh yeah, I can tell it's her because the other one has bigger, and then they cut him off. I'm like, Peter, you're married! What the hell is wrong with you? But anyway.
Boys will be boys, I guess.
Boys will be boys! But they find out who's behind it.
And I totally
forgot
who was behind this. And
me too. I forgot that they wound up in the Savage Land and all this. Like, this goes all over the place.
Yeah. I couldn't even remember who Carl Lycos was. I'm like, that name sounds so familiar. And it's like, oh, it's Sauron? I fucking hate Sauron.
You don't like Sauron?
No. I think it's a very odd mutant.
It absolutely is. I think it might have been Chip Zdarsky that may have given him the best line, where someone's like, "You're a genius. You don't need to be turning people into dinosaurs. You could be curing cancer." And he responds with, "But I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs." And I feel like that's all that needs to be said about Sauron. That is him in a nutshell.
But nevertheless, they end up going and traveling to the Savage Land to track down old Sauron's beak himself.
Yep. So hold on a second. So who hired Electro then? Because it wasn't Carl Lycos, if he was the one they broke out.
Right.
Was it one of his weird, like, mutantoids or whatever those guys were?
Maybe so. I'm wondering if it was going to get to it in this or the next one, but I don't think it ever did.
No, I feel like through Bendis' run, he has so many shadowy conversations where they just get mixed up and forgotten about, and there are some that never get explained, but he's almost got, like, some character off camera, like, pulling some strings, and he has so many of them, you just mix them up or forget about them entirely. I don't know if this one is ever revealed. Maybe it's even revealed in this, but I can't even remember.
No, I have no idea either.
And if they are, it's someone random, like Carl Lycos. So you're like, what? I was waiting for that? I was guessing Dr. Doom, and you're coming in. It's such a lowball with Carl Lycos.
No kidding. Watch it be like somebody like Tiger Shark or some shit like that.
Exactly.
You're like, I don't know or care who that is.
Yeah.
Dr. But
Demonicus.
They find themselves
some Dr. Demonicus books. Let me tell you, that's what I need in my life.
They find themselves in the Savage Land, peacefully landing through all those dinosaurs to only be like trampled by a Tyrannosaurus Rex like immediately. Yep.
And they've even made a joke like, yeah, you never land peacefully in the Savage Land. Then Stark's like, did it, and then their Quinjet is exploded by just a herd of Tyrannosauruses running by.
And then the gang fights a dinosaur, and then Jessica Drew runs into old Wolverine himself, the old Knucklehead. What's he doing down there?
What was he doing down there?
I can't remember.
Just hanging out.
But he was there.
His favorite hot spot.
He gets he stabs himself in his own neck.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Classic Wolverine.
Just a power move.
Yeah.
Check out this.
I thought she did it to him.
Yeah, she did.
Okay, good. I was like, did I totally miss something? Maybe I was too kind about that David Finch art, and I was way off. Yeah, I thought that was great, though. Like, that's how she got out of it. She just stabbed him with his own claws in his neck. Pretty brutal, Jess.
Oh, nasty way to go.
Yeah. Impaled on her own gardening shears.
Nasty way to go. But then they all find themselves strung up, nude.
Naked. Nude.
It's great sex appeal for all the teen boys reading this book to see a very stacked Jessica Drew possibly sneaking a peek.
Yeah, she is quite ample. And they draw attention to this many times. I think Bendis has a thing for Jessica Drew.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because there is a moment in the next arc where she confronts the Wrecker. Is that him? Who's the crowbar guy?
Yeah, I think it is the Wrecker.
And he says, let me quote him here, "I really do like how you look in that costume, sweet cakes." And then she responds with, "Yeah, right back at ya. Woo boy." So yeah, and we also find out that she has a superpower of a pheromone superpower to automatically make people attracted to her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on, Jess. The costume isn't really necessary there.
Right. You didn't even need those donuts.
It is a pretty slamming costume.
Yep.
It absolutely accentuates the busty area.
For sure. And Bendis definitely has a thing for her because she is like a main player come later on in the events. And then I think he was doing like a Spider-Woman side book with Alex Maleev, I think.
Really?
But I know they put it on like a high...
Couldn't have got Frank Cho for that.
Yeah. Well...
Imagine his disappointment.
But apparently they put that on hold. I think I have the motion comic of that when they were still doing those. But...
What an odd relic.
I know. I know. I think
Spider-Woman motion comic.
I know. But I want to say they put it on hold because they had like big plans for coming down the line, and that had to be like after
had to
the
be
events
secret invasion stuff, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we won't get into too much, but there is another shadowy figure conversation involving her, where she's recruited to the Avengers, and as she's going in, she's already talking to somebody and playing the role of a double agent there, where it looks like she's a spy, and we don't know who, but if I remember correctly, it is like the whole secret invasion plot, right?
I believe so.
Are we assuming that's who she's talking with?
Unless
there was another shadow conspiracy.
Is it? I think is it another one though? Because is she also with like Hydra or something like that?
Yeah, she might be.
I don't remember.
I remember there's one panel, and I think it is in a Frank Cho illustrated story arc of Spider-Woman, where it goes through like her backstory and how convoluted it is, and that's kind of like why Bendis chose her, because nobody had like this rock solid history for her. And it shows her getting like all these enhancements and experiments, and she's like laid out on a table and everything, and it totally looks like they're giving her breast implants. And I'm like, well, probably, look at her. Why not just slip those in there too while you're like,
while we got you open,
venom blasts.
Why don't we just slip these in there?
Yep. You're a solid C, but you know what? I think you could pull off a D.
Yeah, right. Those things are like H's.
Well, I mean, if we're talking realism here.
Oh, of course.
If we're ratioing real life to comic books,
Eventually, Tony Stark does outthink old Sauron himself by summoning his armor via Google, via a Google Assistant or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then the Avengers end up getting unstrapped from that containment device. The costumes slap back on, and they take it to Sauron and his prehistoric buds.
Right. And by Sauron, we mean Karl Lycos, because he's in human form through this entire thing until he, I think, touches Wolverine.
Yeah.
And can finally transform into his full dinosauric glory. For one panel until he is immediately shot in the head in the next panel by a group of covert S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives. So it is like the biggest bait and switch, where we get this like huge full page spread of him like wings open, looking like he's just gonna tear him up, and then bam, shot in the head. Done for. Or is he? Because he absorbed Wolverine's healing factor. He heals a bit, and then just bakes the S.H.I.E.L.D. officer that shot him. Because apparently he has fire breath, which I didn't remember.
I
can't say I've read a whole lot of Sauron books either.
Oh, you didn't read the Sauron mini that came out after this?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
But the one he lights up on fire is the other Black Widow.
Yep.
That Peter mentions very misogynistically.
Yeah.
Mentions her. And that was someone that Bendis wrote a miniseries on too, I think.
Oh,
the blonde Black Widow.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Yeah, I think he did like a mini with her. So he had some kind of pre-established experience with her character, but then like completely takes her off the board and like wrecks her in this because she's severely burned. And if I remember right, we leave that arc with her talking to another shadowy figure in her hospital room as she's recovering from being very badly burned.
Yes.
Saying like, "Do you want to get your revenge?" And she's like, "Yes, yes." And I cannot tell you if she comes back or not. He sets a lot of stuff up, but I do not remember her coming back.
I don't remember it either. Huh. Man, there's so many.
I guess we'll find out as we're doing this reread. Like now, we will finally uncover all the clues that he drops, or doesn't, drop, or drops and never picks up. Yep.
But then that'll lead us right into Volume 2, The Sentry.
Oh yeah. What a confusing arc this was.
Yeah, quite. I think if you read like the mini that came out before this, you would get a lot more out of this. Because otherwise you'd be like, I don't know what the heck this guy's deal is.
Right. Yep. We should start off by saying he jumps to a different artist in this, and we get Steve McNiven, who I think this might be like probably my first time seeing his artwork, and it is amazing. I love McNiven's art.
I also really love. I think this is the first time I also saw him as well. I love his super clean line, and everybody looks just perfect.
Yeah, the facial expressions are like some of the best, I think. Yeah, and I haven't seen a whole lot of what he's done lately. I think he probably doesn't. I mean, he doesn't do a monthly book like this anymore. But I remember when this came out, and I was so enamored with like David Finch and the detail. And then this issue or these issues came out, and it was so different. But I think it also, part of my brain that maybe I didn't even realize it at the time was like, man, I think I like this more. It's just so much cleaner and like aesthetically more pleasing.
Yeah.
And the people look different, you know?
Yep. Oh, yeah, for sure. I became a huge fan of Steve McNiven. And then he was on, I don't know if he was on the monthly books well, he was on the monthly books for a little bit, but then he also did a couple of events, maybe.
Yeah, well, he did Civil War.
Right.
And he did The Old Man Logan, both Millar.
Right.
And then I think he did some Millar stuff, like some independent stuff, like he did Nemesis, right?
Yeah, but Nemesis wasn't even hardly as like detailed as this, and maybe it's like his inker, but
maybe, yeah. If I remember right, Nemesis was a little lacking. I felt like when I read that.
What I also like too is that he also does the old timey comics as well.
Yeah,
he draws
it really
them in
shows
a different
the range
style.
There. I was going to ask you that if that was him or not, because it could have easily been just like another little guest artist. But if that is him doing that, like good work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You fooled me.
I was looking at the credits and I don't see any other artist credited, so it's got to be him.
There's a lot of work on this. I mean, towards the end, there's a lot of panels that are just people talking in like a white room. But then I feel like he balances that out by having a lot of insane like montage panels, which I'm sure some were pulled from previous books that maybe some other artists worked on. But for the most, I think he drew a lot of these when it's just like a full-on page of like comic book panels or like a flashback of 1,000 moments in Bob Reynolds' life. But yeah, this also, I believe, marks the first appearance of the Illuminati.
Yes, I kind of forgot that it happened this early.
Yeah, and then when did that miniseries happen? That had to be shortly after this.
Yeah, I want to say, maybe after House of M, but before Civil War.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That sounds right. I started reading House of M this afternoon, actually, and I'm always kind of surprised how much I enjoy it when I start off. I feel like that one gets a bit long as it goes, but yeah, it was good, and another great artist on that one too. Who is on that? Jim Chung?
For which one? House of M? Oh, yeah, I think so. I don't remember.
Or is it Coipel?
Oh, it's
Copiel.
Yeah, it's Copiel who does it.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Jim Chung did Young Avengers. Yep. That's the other one I'm thinking of. Yeah, brief sidetrack. That has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, but maybe something coming up. But anyway, we get the Illuminati in this, and it's a good little brain trust of the heavy thinkers in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And the first of many appearances of them.
I loved the introduction of the Illuminati. I thought it was an awesome idea.
Yeah, Tony Stark just walks into this like rundown like storage unit
Yeah, the
out
shed.
in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, all these guys, Doc Strange, Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Professor X, and Namor are just sitting around like a card table waiting for him. Reed Richards playing on some little portable gizmo who looks like a kid in the back seat on a family road trip. But they're basically going to discuss the Sentry, right? That's what they're chatting about. You're like, oh, you reformed the Avengers. How about this crazy lunatic that you're bringing onto the team? What's up with him?
Yeah. And it's pretty much like, I really don't know what's going on with him. I can't remember, or whatever it is.
Yeah. So, there's also kind of a B plot of this with the Wrecker trying to get his crowbar back from some collector, some superhero, supervillain collector. And he barges into the home of some poor teenage girl and takes her hostage. And then the Avengers come in and they have a throwdown that lasts kind of back and forth over the 3 or 4 issues that this runs. But the main plot is basically trying to figure out what the hell is going on with the Sentry.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sequestered himself into a cave in the Nevada desert. He's still got that beard.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, this is nuts. You know, I killed my wife. What am I doing? And S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in and they're like, your wife is right here. And also, here's Paul Jenkins, a comic book writer that wrote a miniseries about you. What are you? What is going on? And what a way to end an issue there, where Bendis like totally almost does a Grant Morrison type of thing, where he's fully acknowledging the creator of the character in the comic itself, and throws so many layers on this that I never feel like it ever completely pays off. But I do love the idea of the character.
So do I.
Where he's essentially the first like golden age Marvel superhero, right? That's kind of what they're saying. And he had his memory wiped out by a shadowy organization. And as a result, everyone else in the world forgot about him too. And he's just been living a normal life as Bob Reynolds.
Yep.
But then I forget why. How did he end up checking himself into the raft? Why did he think he killed his wife?
I don't know. It's kind of hazy because it jumps around quite a bit, unless he thinks like the Void did it. I don't know.
Yeah, and he also, his main nemesis is the Void, just this crazy, another shadowy character. But this one is basically like his own split personality, and it only appears when he uses his powers.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't remember if... Does he know it's his split personality, or does he just think the Void shows up when he uses his powers? Does he know that he is the Void? By the end of this, he does, but I can't remember if he did in the miniseries.
In the miniseries, he, I think, remembers and figures it out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah. But what's also in the miniseries is that that they have a snapshot of like a real life looking Sentry in this.
Yeah. Yep.
I hate
it. Is terrible.
Photo.
They could not have gotten a better, like, mocked up person dressed as a Sentry. Yeah, it is awful. God awful.
Every time I see it, I'm like, why didn't you just draw it?
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea.
God damn. But anyway, they have garnered the help of the X-Men at this point, with the help of Emma Frost, to come and kind of probe inside the Sentry's mind to like unearth some kind of secret.
Yeah, and that's where they find out that Mastermind of the X-Men Brotherhood of Evil Mutants was contracted by a mysterious figure who we find out, I think, was the General. I think he was just like some made-up Sentry villain. Unless it wasn't, unless it was someone more than that, but I'm pretty sure they say it's the general and then give no further explanation.
That's it. That's all you get.
That's the general. Get your car insurance from the general. But while she's giving him a deep mental scope, the Void is attacking all the heroes as they're kind of fending him off while she's able to do this, healing to his psyche.
Mm-hmm.
And they eventually just kind of come to terms with the fact that he's been brainwashed and made to forget, and now those mental blocks have been broken, and he can come out in his full exploding sun, shining night, Sentry glory, and by doing so, the Void is just gone, and he's back to being a hero. And everyone's like, I don't know about this.
Something seems awfully fishy about this guy that we've never seen before.
Yeah. And now his tower is actually built on top of Stark Tower as well. He has that crazy looking sinister watchtower that everyone has just been ignoring for the past 40 or 5 years that is now perched atop Stark Tower.
I like that.
And that's now it's like their treehouse on top of their headquarters.
Maybe it was a poor choice to have Jay Lee design the tower for the Sentry, because it is just so sinister looking.
It is a total Jay Lee construct.
But yeah, then we jump back to the Illuminati for one final double-page spread here, and talking about what are they talking about here? The Avengers?
I think they say they're like, so the Avengers are back. You're gonna have a Sentry. What'd you guys find out in the Savage Land? And Stark's like, nothing. Nothing. Even though there's a telepath and a master of the mystic arts and the smartest man in the world, he's like, nothing. No, nothing. But we didn't even touch on that. It was there's a kind of like a deep ops shield group, or a shield faction that was mining the natural resources of the Savage Land, right? Was that
something to that effect? I don't know.
Yeah, I felt like it didn't really amount to a whole lot.
I don't think it ever comes back, from what I understand. I don't remember at all. And being that we're kind of just getting warmed up with this, but you're continuing on with New Avengers, right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of read that as I'm hitting all these event books.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so I'll fill you in if anything comes up.
Good deal. I'm going to jump right into House of M and get a good
because that will be
that.
next. That's the next one we'll talk about, and it takes place right after this, I believe, in the timeline of the Avengers.
Awesome. Well, I saw at the end of the Sentry that Ronan is next, so...
Oh, we're going to get some answers.
Possibly.
We're going to see whoever Bendis was able to allow into the team. And also, while this was going on, the Young Avengers title was kind of popular, and it kicked off another Avengers team. And I reread these 12 issues because I remembered liking it when I read them when they first came out. And you said you've never read this, right?
Right, I have the collection, but I just never had the time to sit down and read it.
Yeah, it was written by Alan Heinberg of the OC, the TV show.
Really?
Yeah, I guess he's a big comic fan, because I think I've heard he sprinkled some comic references into that show. But wouldn't you know it, I've never seen it. And it had Jim Chung on the art, and he does amazing art duties on this. So the book looks great, and it's fun and breezy, but it definitely feels like a TV writer trying out comics for the first time. And not everything quite pays off. It's stereotypical in a lot of spots. It has a lot of beats like a TV show would, which makes it pretty easy to read. But then there's also a lot of things that happen where I feel like he was not thinking about the consequences of how a lot of these events would ultimately play out. But overall, it's not a bad read, and it's pretty short. His run, I think, like I said, was only 12 issues, and it wraps up pretty well. And I think there isn't another Young Avengers book for quite a while before I think Kieran Gillian takes it over years later and kind of brings it back.
Okay. Right on.
But the characters in it are definitely interesting because I'm going to give you the rundown of the list here. There's Teddy and Billy. One of them's a speedster, and one of them is Wiccan with, like, magical powers. They are Scarlet Witch's children.
I see.
Who apparently didn't exist, and what caused the entire Avengers Disassembled arc.
Okay.
But that is one thing in this book where they mention that at the end, but they don't really say how this is possible.
Okay.
But they've been alive their whole life, but somehow they were also, like, blinked into existence and then out of existence by the Scarlet Witch. I don't know if they ever pick up on that or not. Again, if someone listening to this knows, fill us in. But that was something that I felt was very vague, yet pretty instrumental to kind of what we're talking about, how that kicked off this entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's also Eli, who is the grandchild of the first Black Captain America.
Oh, okay.
He is a Patriot in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's Cassie Long, the daughter of Ant-Man, Scott Long. Lang, Cassie Lang. Are you still here?
Yeah,
Tom?
I'm still here. I'm
Okay.
listening.
Right.
I'm absorbing
Hanging on every word.
Yeah.
All right. There's Hulkling, who I think changes his name to Changeling. He's like a shapeshifter, and he is the son of the original Captain Marvel of the Kree Empire. There's the Kate Bishop Hawkeye, makes her first appearance in this. There's Iron Lad, a time-traveling Iron Man character from the future who turns out to be Kang the Conqueror in a younger form.
Mm-hmm.
And the Vision also returns in this. He's rebuilt.
Oh, cool.
So, a veritable who's who of Avengers loose ends from the last couple arcs that we read there. All of them just kind of like legacy heroes, I guess, to these original ones. So I thought the lineup was kind of cool, and I like how they do tie them all together.
Yeah, that is a really cool lineup. I know some parts of it. I think I heard the Scarlet Witch thing with Wiccan and what's the speedster's name?
Speed. His name is Speed.
Very good. I thought I heard that before, but I've completely forgotten. Isn't the Hulkling like a Kree Skrull hybrid?
Yes, he is. Yep.
Right on. And I think
so
Wiccan...
Marvel had some action with one of the Skrull Empresses.
Oh boy! And I think Wiccan and Hulkling are also like a thing as well. They're like a gay
they're
couple.
dating. They're a couple, which was pretty risque, I guess, at the time this came out. It was early 2000s. It wasn't quite as commonplace as it is now.
It's also some weird interspecies erotica.
It sure is. 3 different species right there in that melting pot.
A menage a trois of love.
Yes, in that bubbling cauldron.
Well, there you go. That's what we got going on here. The formation of the New Avengers and a little bit after that, even
of the Young Avengers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I really am enjoying Bendis's run on this, and I think I was going over through some of the comments of our last few videos of this. And it seems like a lot of people that were on board with this early 2000s Bendis run for a while anyway, until maybe it gets out of hand. But I'm glad some people are following along.
It was very fresh. Absolutely. Like, when it came out, it felt very different from a lot of other stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't big on comics at that point, but maybe because they just all kind of felt the same. And then when this one came out, it was like, oh, hey, look at this. This feels very different. Mm-hmm. From all the stuff that I'm not really reading, so maybe it's not the best comparison. But I remember it hitting a chord.
Yes. Oh, what a time to be alive. What a time to still be alive, I'll tell you that right now.
What a time to revisit that time that we were alive. We're all living our best lives.
So next week, or next show rather, we're going to be going over House of M. Do you have any of the tie-ins, did you say, or none?
No, I don't.
Ooh,
I'm going to leave that in your ballpark. You give it a look and tell me what's worth commenting on.
I might thumb through some of them. I remember only a few of them, so I'll see. But I'm excited about that, because that's one I haven't revisited in a while. So
yeah, yep. And who does the art on House of M? Is that, did we decide that was Copiel?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yes. Oh, yeah. I just imagine you would cut out that rambling that I did earlier.
No.
No, it's in there.
But yeah, that's going to be it. So if they want to find us on the internet, Dave, where can they do so?
I don't know, Troy. Why do you toss this to me? You know I'm always scattered when I'm put on the spot like this. We're on YouTube. We're on the Anchor podcast thing. All the podcast sources, I believe, you can find us at. Twitter, @Imperius Rex Show. Gmail, @Imperius Rex Show. What else do you want from me?
That's it. That's all I want, Dave.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you want to tag me on some of those too, @Troy to the Max, that's me. You can throw me on there.
Yep. And we did you have something else?
No, I did not.
Okay. Goodbye.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I did want to say, I should have said this up top, but obviously it's no secret of all the craziness that's happening right now in the world. So we released our last episode last week, and it felt weird, like we sat on it for a while.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like the time to be just talking about silly things.
Uh-huh.
So if you do need a distraction from real world events, we're happy to provide that. But also, we urge you, don't lose sight of the greater cause there. And if you can, if you're able, help out, do what you can, do what's best for you, support whatever charity you feel comfortable with. There's a lot of strife going on right now, and the fact that we grow up on comic books and talk superheroes and fighting for good, it's good to try to, repay that in life. So support an organization like Black Lives Matter or any of those affiliated with it, and just try to be a good person.
Very well said, Dave.
Thanks. You could put that at the beginning, actually. That might fit better. Kick it off with that. But yeah, that's it. It feels so strange to have all this going on and still go about your day-to-day activities, but obviously you have to keep some sanity and allow a little bit of time for entertainment. So if this is it, we thank you for tuning in, but also, yeah, don't lose sight of the real important things in the world right now, too.
That's right. All these funny books getting in the way.
That's right. God, if they weren't in the way at some point, I would have gone nuts by now. It's been quite a year.
But yeah, that's going to be the show. So until next time, I've been Troy to the Max Extreme.
And I've been Ghost Hunter Dave.
And this has been Imperius Rex. We'll catch you in the next event. Bye-bye.
Rex. Imperius 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 Rex. Imperius.
There we go. That was good. That was a good one.